Hi, it's John from Crafts by John UK. Today is a very different card for me. I've had a little bit of a play with an old book and some dies and made some paper flowers. So you can see I've gone all flowery today. So these paper flowers are made of pages from an old book, which I've coloured with Distress Oxides. It's a several part die, so I've got two different layers of petals, and I've got a sort of stamen in the middle and some leaves around the back. I've mounted it onto this pink rose paper with a matching butterfly piece, which I've torn. I've got some washi tape there with gold, just for a bit of interest. Another flower at the bottom, and then this raised happy birthday in corresponding butterfly paper. So if you're interested in this, which is quite unusual for me, let's say, if you want to see how I did it, stay tuned and I'll show you. So I've taken my old book. This is one I bought from an old bookstore somewhere. I can't remember exactly when. I paid a few pounds for it. I'm just flicking through it, looking for some pages that are predominantly text. I've got my die cuts, or my dies, you can see. They are flowers in various sizes, and then there's a sort of stamen one that fits in the middle, and I've got a couple of leaves as well. Obviously I've sped this video up because die cutting takes a little while. It's not the most interesting thing to watch in the world, but you can see I've sped things up so you can just get an idea of the process. So I'm literally cutting out different sized petals and leaves and the centerpiece, just filling and taking up the space on the page basically. So I've cut out a few because I wanted to make a few flowers. I wasn't quite sure where I was going with this card. I kind of started off just thinking I'm going to make some flowers, and then decided I'd actually sort of make it into a card as well. So I ended up cutting, I believe, 3 sets of the different petal sizes and the leaves that I would then kind of pull together into the actual flowers that you can see on the finished card. In the end, I actually only ended up using 2 of them, but I've now got 1 spare which I can happily use for another project. So I'm just finishing off here, cutting all the different things out. Obviously paper from a book, the pages of a book, it's much thinner than normal paper that we work with when we're card making, so you do have to be a little bit careful and take just a fraction more care than normal. It's very easy to rip, so when you're working with it, that's something to just bear in mind and you know, take a little bit more care. I've got all my pieces now, so you can see the 2 flower petals fit together. I've zoomed in there a little bit so you can see. I've got my smoothies now, and I'm now going to colour them. So I decided on a purple, pink, orange colour palette. So I started off with the purple, just kind of working my way around, being very careful, as I said, about the paper because it's very thin. So just laying out a layer of purple. These are the back pieces of the flower, so I don't need to colour the whole thing really, but just trying to get some deep colour around the edges, and I actually sort of went around the edges as well with the smoothie, just to get a little bit of really bright purple on the very edges. So I did that mainly for the back 3, and I'd got, I think this was a violet colour Distress Oxide, and then I went in with the picked raspberry, which is a favourite of mine. I love that colour, it's just such a nice colour in that middle colour palette. Went round with that on the middle, the smaller of the 2 flower cutouts, just giving that a nice sort of pinky edge, and then the idea was then to use an orange. So I've got 2 different colour oranges, a honey and a kind of brighter orange, and I went in just into the centre with the kind of mid-coloured orange, because I decided I'd save the really dark orange to use for the stamen that's going to go in the middle. So I was just working my way around the flowers, dabbing on, mainly sort of dabbing on with the sponge, not really pulling, not doing anything too shocking for the paper, because as I've said, it's only quite thin pages of a book. So you can see there I've done the stamens in the middle in that darker orange, which is a marmalade colour, and then I turned to the leaves, and I've done those in a green. You can see, I think that's peeled paint. These are all Distress Oxides, and all of them I applied using smoothies because it's just the kind of quickest way to do it. I didn't worry too much about the leaves, they're mostly going to sit behind, you only see a little bit of them, but I did colour the whole things in. There we go. You can see how quick this is, even sped up. You can see it's a pretty quick process. Cleaning my mat, obviously, as I go. So now I've got my flowers, and I just need to kind of pull them together. The awkward thing about flowers with text on, do you keep the text the same way? Do you turn it around? It's a bit of a conundrum. But I decided to just go randomly. I also got the end of a jelly pen, which is curved, and just went around the leaves in my hand, using the kind of natural layout of your hand to just give them a little bit of a curved edge. I then stuck the stamen down in the middle, lifting just a few of the edges. Obviously, as you make the card, this could get pressed down, but if you start off with it kind of curved, it usually ends up a little bit curved as well. And just use the heat of your hand here, just going over it with the end of the pen. So I use double-sided to stick that layer down to the back, and then I use glue on the little stamen in the middle. I did also add little gems in the middle as well for a little bit of extra interest, just to kind of bring it to life a little. But yeah, I made 3 of those in that sort of pinky purple colour palette with orange as well. So it's quite a nice colour combo, and it does work for things in nature basically. And then I just put the leaves on the back so that they sort of peek out from behind, not really thinking too much about it, not making them all identical. Some I stuck the leaves together and then put the flower on, some I did it the other way around. It doesn't really matter, you kind of want this to be random. If you spend too much time thinking about it, they look anything other than random. And then double-sided on the back so that they're ready to stick down. Here we go, there's our 3 little flowers. So now we need to lay our card out. I've got a pretty piece of floral paper. It's got butterflies on one side and in a matching colour, and then kind of pink roses on the other. What you can see I've done is I've just torn the edges there. I just wanted a different colour panel down the right hand side, just to give it a bit of contrast. So I've gone around the edges with the same purple violet colour that I'd used on the flowers. You can see I'm just gluing that panel down on the right hand side, top right. And as I said, I didn't really plan too much the layout of this card, but I just kind of fancied having a play. It was mainly about the flowers. So I created that so that it had some interest, and I then had some matching kind of washi tape in a sort of light pink and gold. It's very subtle, but I just thought something down the page will kind of draw your eye. And then it was a case to start playing with the flowers. I decided when I put 3 on that 3 were too much. It started to look like a float in a flower parade. So I thought, right, okay, 2 is probably enough. So at that point, I decided to just use 2. I then started hunting out for a sentiment. Found a simple happy birthday on a stamp set. I can't remember who it was from. I think it might have been Woodware. But anyway, I stamped that on the matching butterfly pink, and I heat embossed it. And then I cut that out, obviously, so that I had that as a separate panel, which used the grid lines on my cutting mat. Cut that out, basically, and mounted that. I wanted a central kind of happy birthday theme, just to bring the card together, really. But it was a case now of what the hell's that going to look like when I start to put that in with all the flowers. So I had this idea about lifting it up maybe and putting on some foam pads so it was slightly higher than the background. So I thought, all right, I need all my elements to have a play, really. So I then decided on this layout, top left, bottom right. It's kind of a natural progression. So I stuck my flowers down, you can see there, and then I decided to put the happy birthday in the middle. So use some foam pads just to lift it up, just to give it a bit of interest, because the flowers are kind of 3D, they're curled, and they look obviously lifted from the surface. So I thought, yeah, definitely the right thing to do. Had all sorts of problems getting the backing off these sticky pads, as you can see. Took ages, even sped up. There we go. But by putting it in that black border, it just makes you notice it. So it doesn't get lost across in amongst the flowers, but across the whole card you can kind of see it, which is what I wanted. So I then mounted the whole thing on black, because obviously that then ties it all together. You've got black around the sentiment and then black on the back of the card. And pretty much we were there then. So the card came together without much planning. I really did make this up as I went along. It's just a general card for sort of everyday use, so nothing too critical. But I had a play, and I really just wanted to play with those old book pages and colour them in. I stuck this all down on a 7x5 card blank, which I scored with my paper tool there. You can see, just to get the crease nice with my bone folder. Stuck the whole thing down, and that's the card done, basically. So it does look pretty. The pages add interest to it, and it kind of looks nice because it's all tied in with the colours. So ended up being quite a nice card. Simple technique, grab an old book from a bookstore. And And that's today's card, really. I quite enjoyed the look of it. I could have probably laid it out slightly differently if I'd really thought about it. But you can see the flowers look pretty. And here's our finished card. You can see the flowers look nice. They have a 3D effect to them. The contrast of the butterfly paper with the washi tape against the floral simple background looks quite effective. So we're liking this card, and it's a good card for Mother's Day or a birthday, or just a floral, happy spring, summer type card. If you've enjoyed that, please give me a thumbs up and like my video. Maybe subscribe to my channel so you get told about future videos as I post them. I usually post a couple a week and try to be helpful and lots of hints and tips along the way. Hopefully you've enjoyed that, and I'll catch you next time.